Sotah Daf begins with a continued analysis of the psukim of the Chet of the Meraglim who went to Eretz Yisrael to spy it out, but spoke Lashon Hara against it. The Gemara will quote many very famous Chazal that are quoted by Rashi and Chumash. So first, the Gemara begins with the pasuk Vayishuvim mito haaretz vayelchu vayavoyu. It says vayelchu vayavoyu together. Rashi says the drasha is from the word that it says vayelcha altogether. Vayelcha is extra here. Could have just said vayavoyu when they returned. So why are these words here? So Vayelchan says in the name of Shem ben Yechai, this is to connect their halicha when they went to Eretz Yisrael, to their return. Just like when they returned, they had in mind to say bad things when they went to Eretz Yisrael. They also planned on saying bad things about Eretz Yisrael. It says that they spoke to Moshe and to Klal Yisrael and they said, we came to the land, and they said at first good things, and then they said Efes ki azam, then they said it's impossible because the people there are too strong to conquer. It says Rabbi Yechanan and Rabbi Meir, anytime somebody wants to say something wicked or bad about someone else, he has to make sure that there's a little bit of truth in there, because otherwise no one's going to believe him. If it's all false, it has to have a grain of truth, and that's what makes it believable. Next it says Vayahas Kalev Esam El Moshe Kalev silenced the people to Moshe. What does that mean? Rabbah says that they incited them with words, and Yehoshua started to speak, or he wanted to speak, but they silenced him. And they said, this one with no children shouldn't speak to us. So Kalev thought, if I'm going to try to say something, they're not going to let me speak either. So he came up with the roots. He said, oh, is this the only thing that Ben Amram did to us? And they thought that he was going to say more negative things about Moshe, and therefore they let him speak. And he said, you know what else he did for us? He took us out of Mitzrayim. He split the sea. He fed us the mun. If he would give us an instruction to make ladders to go up to Shemayim, certainly we would, because of all the things that he did for us. So Allah, go up, we'll go up. We can go up even to the heavens. We can inherit Eretz Yisrael without an issue. Next it says that the people that were with him said, we can't. Says Rabbi Chanina Bar Papa, the Meraglim said a very big thing at that time, a very terrible thing. They said, Ki chazaku mimenu. Mimenu doesn't necessarily mean from us. Mimenu can mean from him. It can be referring to Kadosh Baruch Hu, Chas v'Shalom Kaviyachol, to say that the owner of the house can't even get out his furniture from the house, meaning that to say that Kadosh Baruch Hu wouldn't even be able to remove the Canaan from Eretz Canaan. Rava said a drasha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I made the land full of funerals when they came. It says Eretz Acheles Yeshva. They said it's a land that eats the people. I did it as a good thing for them in order to distract them, that they shouldn't pay attention to the spies that are in their midst. Now, what did they do? They went and they turned it into a bad thing and said that this is a land which devours the people that are in it. There are those who say that there were a lot of funerals, or others who say that it was just one, and it was a great man, and that's why everyone was in mourning. It was Eof, and the reason that he died was in order to take away the zchus that he protected the people of Canaan, that they should be able to conquer it. Now, next it says, "V'anihi beinenu kachagavim, v'chen hayinu beineihem." We were in our eyes as grasshoppers, and so were we in their eyes. Said Rav Misharshia, they're liars. How could they know what they looked like in the eyes of other people? They couldn't see from the eyes of other people. Their own eyes, okay, but the eyes of others. So the Gemara says, no, they could possibly know, because after the funerals, people would come and have a Sudas Havra. They would have a certain meal, and they would have the meal under the cedar trees. And the Meraglim would go climb into the trees in order that they don't get stepped on. And they heard them saying, oh, we see people the size of insects in the trees. And therefore, that shows that they were referring to them, and they were calling them insects. And that's how they knew that they were in their eyes like grasshoppers. Next it says, Vatisa kol ha'ida, they all began to cry, Vayidnu es kailam v'yivku, said Rabbi and Rabbi Yechanan, that day was Tisha B'Av, or Erev Tisha B'Av, so that night was Tisha B'Av, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, you cried for no reason, I'm going to give you a reason to cry for generations, and generations afterward. Then it says that all the people went to the stone, Kalev and Yehoshua, then it says the Kved Nira Ba'el Mayed, and the glory of the HaKadosh Baruch Hu appeared in the Oyel Mayed. Says Rabbi Bar Abba, this shows that they took stones and they throw them upward as if they're trying to stone the divine. Now, what happened in the end was that the Meraglim all died. It says Vayamusu Hanashim Maitzedi B'Sa'aretz Ra. So it's Vayamusu Ra. So Rav Shimon ben Lakish says that they died in a very gruesome death. B'chnina bar Papa said a drasha, Rav Shila Ish Kfar Tamarta, that their tongues extended out of their mouths all the way to their belly button, and worms came out of their tongue and went into their bellies and came out of their bellies and went into their tongues. And others could say, Ranachim Bar Yitzchak says that it was from a disease called Askara. The Gemara now returns briefly to the topic of Klal Yisrael crossing the Yarden, and that will take us into the episode with Uzzah, when he shifted the Aron on the wagon that was being brought back from being captured by the Pelishtim, and that caused him to die on the spot, and the Gemara will discuss that. So the Gemara says that after the Kohanim put their feet in the water when they were holding the Aron, and the Yarden dried up, or it stopped, the Klal Yisrael all passed, and then the Kohanim took their feet out of the water. When that happened, the water started to flow again, like it says in the Pasuk, V'hi balos Kohanim nos Aron b'Res Hashem b'toch Yarden, Minasku kapos raglei Kohanim el Hacharav v'Yeshu mehayardim komim v'yachol k'smol shosha ma'kol gedosa. So they took the feet out of the water, and the water started to flow again. But that means that they ended up still on the first side, on the east side of the Yarden, because they had just put their foot in and took their foot out. So Klal Yisrael had already crossed, but they were stuck on the other side. So what happened was that the Aron lifted them up and flew them across. Like it says, Vayiki kasher tam kol ha'am la'avar v'yavar Aron Hashem ha'kahanim lifnei ha'am. Now, this is out of order. This is not written in the place where it would need to be. And Rashi says it's Ein Lukim Mocha B'Torah, and that's why this can refer to what was happening after Klal Yisrael had crossed, even though that's not where it's written. Now, because of this caused the death of Uzzah. What happened was that the Aron was taken to war at some point. It was captured by the Pelishtim and was brought back. It was put on a wagon. David was the one who was leading it, and he put it on a wagon. And at some point, it seemed to slip on the wagon, and Uzzah fixed it. And because he touched the Aron, he died. And that was because of this mistake that he made. If the Aron was carrying the people who carried it, certainly it's able to carry itself, and it doesn't need Uzzah to fix it and make sure that it doesn't fall. And that's why Vichraf Hashem be'Uzzah v'yikehu Shem al hashal. Hashem got angry at Uzzah and he struck him there on the shal. What's a shal? So Yechon and Rav Elazar, one says it's iskei shaloi, it refers to the mistake that he made, and one says that it's because he did his own private needs over there in front of the Aron, which was improper. Next it says Vayamas Sham Imar, and Elikim says Yechanan Uzzah came to Haba. He's compared to the Aron, just like the Aron lasted forever, because we know the Aron was hidden by Yeshayahu Melech. So too Uzzah lasts forever, which means that he was brought into Haba. So we know that even though he died at that spot for this mistake, he still has a chelik in Haba. Next the pasuk is Vayichar leDavid Asher Paratz Hashem Paratz Uzzah. David was upset. It says Rav Elazar Vayichar is from the word charara, which is a cake that's made by being put on coals, and the cake turns black. And it means to show that David HaMelech's face turned black as well because of this. So when I ask, the word Vayichar is used all over. You want to say every time it says Vayichar, that's what it means? So it says no. Usually it says Vayichar Af. Vayichar Af is from the word Nechiraim. It refers to flaring of the nostrils that happens with anger. This Vayichar doesn't say Vayichar Af. It just says Vayichar leDavid. So it's referring to the blackening that happens to a charara. Now, it says Rava says a drasha. Why was David punished that in his time of tremendous simcha this incident happened? That's because he called words of Torah Zmiros. He said, Zmiros hayuli chukecha in Tehillim. Your laws are to me like songs. Beveis megurai. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, you cannot call the words of the Torah songs. It says in it, if you blink, you'll miss it. If you blink, you'll lose it. About something like that, you want to call songs. It's not a proper approach. Therefore, he said, I'm going to make you stumble on something which even children learning in school will know. Like it says, the family of Kos were not given wagons to carry the parts of the Mishkan that they carried, and that's because they carried the urn and the kalim, and they were not supposed to be put on wagons. Yet David HaMelech forgot that, and he put the urn on a wagon to bring it back to the Beis Hamikdash, and that caused this whole incident. Next, it says that when they passed by Beit Shemesh, the people of Beit Shemesh saw, and they were struck. So what happened exactly? Well, just because they saw the urn is a reason for them to be struck. So Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Elazar discuss it. One says that the problem is that although they saw it and they bowed to the urn, they continued working. They continued harvesting the grain as they did, and that was insulting. And the other approach is that they actually said something. We said, who made you angry that you allowed yourself to be captured, and who appeased you that you came back? Next it says, shivim ish v'chamishim elef. Were struck amongst the people 70 people and 5,000 people. So this is Machlokes Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Elazar. One says it was 70 people, but each one had the value of 5,000 people. And one says it was 5,000 people, but each one had the value of the 70 Sanhedrin. Next it says, Vayiki tzadu neis Aaron Hashem shisha tzadim. When they walked 6 steps, Vayizbach shar'u meri, and they made karbonas, a ox and a very fatty cow. And then it says Shivim parim v'shivim elim, Shiva parim v'shiva elim, 7 cows and 7 rams. So how do you fit this all together? It's the Machlokes. Rav Papa Bar Shmuel says every step they walked, they brought a carbon, a shar, and a mari, and every 6 steps they brought 7 cows and 7 elim. And Chizda disagrees. He says if that's true, that means you need a new mizbeach, a bama, every step, because they had to be marked of karbonos every step that they walked, and then the entire Yisrael will be filled up with bomis. So you have to say that it was every 6 steps that they did shor and mari, and every 6 sets of 6 steps, that's when they did the 7 parim and the 7 elim. Next, the Gemara discusses that the area there was called Kidon at first and was called Nachon in Sefer Derei Yamim. In Sefer Shmuel, it's called Kidon, which refers to destruction and loss, and it's called Nachon